Hello guys, welcome or welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm here with a new video known as inflation. Okay, so let's get into the video. So in this video we are going to discuss about what inflation is in general, what causes inflation, what are the consequences of inflation, and my signature touch, uh, the questions obviously. Okay, so before you go ahead and go ahead and watch my video, before I go ahead and make this video and put it on, do one thing: subscribe to my YouTube channel and also press the bell icon so that you are always notified when I put a new video on. Okay, so let's get into it. No more further ado. Inflation. Okay, inflation. What inflation? It's not inflating balloons for your birthday party. Okay, it is basically average rise in general price in economy of goods and services during a particular period of time. So this inflation definition has three parts. First thing first is average rise in general prices in economy. Second is on goods and services or of goods and services. And the third thing is a particular time period. So now for the same, I have an example on the right side of the screen, which is inflation is a silent killer. So it's a silent killer because you won't notice the small general rise in prices. Okay, so how inflation changed the price of a cup of coffee over 50 years. So they have mentioned the time period, which is 50. They have mentioned the goods and services, which is a cup of coffee, and they have also shown you the general rise in price. So in 1970 it was 0.25, in 2020 it was 1.75. So this there is an uh, increase in prices by 1.5 dollars. Okay, so this is just an example. Otherwise inflation is calculated for overall goods and services in the economy. Next is causes of inflation. So what causes inflation, what types of inflation do we have? So the causes and the types of inflation are the same, and the first type is the demand pull inflation. So increase in general prices because of demand increases, this will cause demand pull inflation. So if you are in an economy, okay, and if there is higher demand in the country, if the demand increases due to any reason, then there would be an extension in the supply curve. There would be a shift in equilibrium upwards. This will set the new prices to P1. So from P to P1 the prices will increase. It might happen due to any component of aggregate demand, which is C plus I plus G plus X minus M, which is the aggregate demand. If you haven't watched my video for aggregate demand, I would put a card, I will inform you. Somehow I will tell you that go watch my video of aggregate demand. Okay, so that was demand pull inflation. So the demand has pulled the prices upwards. Now what? Cost push inflation. So this cost push inflation happens when there is an increase in cost of production. If the cost of production increases, the supply would fall. This is stated by the law of supply. Okay, so because of law of supply, the due to increase in cost of production, the supply would fall. If the supply falls, the the aggregate demand will contract. The equilibrium now will shift upwards and will set a price at P1. So there is an increase from P to P1 just because of increase in cost of production. Okay, so this is increase and this is also inflation basically. So this will force the supplier to reduce the supply, moving the SRAS to SRAS1 upwards, which causes the contraction in aggregate demand. Now cost of production has two very nice effects. Okay, first is the wage spiral effect and another is imported inflation. Okay, so let's see what wage spiral effect is. So it happens, when does wage spiral effect take place? Okay, so it happens when a labor seeks more wage than the productivity level. This increase the increases the cost of production and the general price level. To match up to the expensive pricing, the labor asks for more wage, which creates a spiral effect in the economy. So basically, the labor asks for more wages. More wages causes the cost of production to increase. Cost of production increases the prices in the market. Now, due to increase in prices, people cannot, the labor cannot buy the product, right? They cannot buy the product at that price, so they will ask for more wages from their company. So this will now again lead to laborers asking for more wages, and then more wages causing cost of so that's a spiral. This keeps going on and on and on. Okay, so that's a wage spiral effect. Now what is imported inflation? Like the name suggests, imported inflation is when the producer imports expensive raw material for production. Okay, this increases the cost of production, which leads to increase in general price level. So for example, I'm a producer in India. Okay, I'm producing a product, and my raw materials, cost of my raw materials was causing me, let's say $100,000, 100,000 rupees. Okay, but now if I am importing my raw materials from USA, now my same raw material is costing me rupees 200,000. Okay, this has shifted my cost of production, obviously. So that my cost of production has increased, my cost of production increases, then the supply decreases. Supply decreases, the prices increases in the market due to contraction in demand, and this causes inflation. So this is imported inflation due to importing of raw material. Next we have are the consequences of inflation. So what happens when inflation actually takes place in an economy? So first, there are two parts to it, always negative and positive. Every coin has two sides, right? So consequences. So first we'll look into the negative consequences of inflation. So what are the negative consequences of inflation? Okay, so these are the six types of negative effects of inflation. So first is menu cost. So cost of altering price tags because of change in price due to inflation. So for example, if my t-shirt was costing me, let's say $5, but due to inflation now it's costing people $7. Okay, now the company has to change the price tags. So due because of the change, so this change in price tags will cause the inflation. So this will cost basically the company, right? So this is a menu cost. Okay, menu, this is also applicable in restaurants. If the cost of production for raw vegetables and raw ingredients increases, then the obviously the prices of the dish will also increase, and this will, they will have to keep altering the menu of the restaurant. So that's how the name derives, menu cost. Shoe leather costs. In olden days, people had to, they did not have online banking, so they had to go to the bank physically and transfer their money from one place to another, or all the transaction were taking place in the bank. Okay, so during inflation, uh, because of inflation happened, the rate of interest also changes. Due to change in rate of interest in banks, people will shift their money from a low interest rate bank to a high interest rate bank, right? This is because they want to earn more interest on their money saved. So they had to literally move from one place to another, one bank to another, to complete this transfer of money successfully. So this would invest a lot of time and also money for transport. Okay, so that's shoe leather cost. They had to, in olden times they used to walk, so shoe leather basically. Fiscal drag. So when people are dragged into bigger tax bracket because of taxation system is not adjusted to inflation. So if you have not started doing taxes and all of that on your own, okay, ask your parents about the tax bracket or what tax rate do they pay? Okay, ask them. So if let's take an example, a very simple example. If I am producing 50 units at $10, so basically my revenue is $500. Okay, and the tax bracket for, so the at between 0 to 600, people don't have to pay any tax, 0% taxation. But now due to inflation, the $10 have now changed to $14. Okay, so 50 units, $14, so I have to pay 700, so I have earned $700, right? Now the next or the higher tax bracket is between 600 to $1,000, and the people in that bracket have to pay 10% tax. Okay, now I am producing 50 units. I was initially selling at $10. I was initially earning revenue of $500. Okay, and I was paying no tax, but I'm producing same 50 units, okay, same quality and everything, but because of increase or because of the inflation, uh, by $4, okay, so at $14 now I have to sell. I am earning $700 as my revenue, so now I have to pay 10% taxation on the same. So this is fiscal drag because I'm dragged from bracket number 1 to the bracket number 2. Okay, automatically. So that's a fiscal drag. Inflationary noise is basically confusion over relative prices caused due to inflation. So this can be explained with an example very easily. Okay, so if you are a firm producing a product, and if the prices of a product is increasing, okay, so you will obviously increase the output. Okay, so if your prices of the product increases, you will increase the output. Now because you are increasing the output just because you want to earn higher profits, but this inflation is this rise in prices just because of inflation. It is not because of increase in demand. Okay, so the demand falls even less. So basically the firm has misallocated all its resources. So this is basically an example of inflationary noise where confusion over relative prices causes cost due to inflation. Next is redistribution of income. Inflation might benefit one person and might not benefit the other. I would explain this in the next slide even better. Okay. Next is inflation causing more inflation. So this happens, inflation causing more inflation. This happens when people stock beforehand. So for example, I am buying a bag of rice, okay, which is 1 kg. Okay, now the I am noticing that the prices have increased from $5 to $6. So now I purchase as much as I can at $6. Okay. So for example, instead of my demand was only 1 kg, but I have already bought 10 kgs. This has created more demand in the economy. Now, as we have already learned, demand pull inflation. Due to more demand, the prices increases even more. So this has caused inflation. So inflation from $5 to $6 has caused even more inflation just because I bought 9 more units, right? So this is inflation causing more inflation. Now, like I told you, negative and positive effects. So due to low demand pull inflation, if there is a low demand pull inflation, firms firms feel optimistic about the market demand to increase. Okay, so they feel that the demand is going to increase in the market, and this obviously the demand is increasing. The no supplier would like to leave its customer dissatisfied, so they would produce more. Okay, so more output. If the revenue is more than the cost, then higher profits are earned. They can invest more and at a lower rate of interest. So this will increase more output. because at a lower rate of interest, more investment can happen, more disposable investment. This will create more output in the economy. So increase in output by all sides, which is very good for the economy, to be honest. Reduce debt burden. So the real rate of interest falls during inflation, just like the money value. The rate of interest, the value of it also decreases during inflation. For example, if the borrower had to pay X interest, okay, now I'm paying an X% interest, which could buy me 2y of the goods, okay, which could buy me 2y. Now after inflation, the same X can only buy me y, okay, only one y. So the real rate of interest has fallen, but the nominal rate of interest has not changed a bit. Okay, but due to inflation, the the same X could only buy me Y. So if a borrower, the borrower has to pay back X, which could buy only Y, but the borrower borrowed at X, which could buy 2Y. So this is an advantage for the borrower, but this is a disadvantage for the lender. So when I told you redistribution of income, this basically meant that one might benefit. So borrowers have benefited, and others might not. So basically the lenders have not been benefited. If the borrower earns real wages, okay, if they are earning real wages, then the burden on the borrower reduces even further, okay, because they are earning more nominal value. Next is low unemployment. So for this, instead of explaining this in a theoretical way, I'll give an example. If I have employed X, okay, X and Y at no inflation. So firms, if they want to cut the cost on its, so they will, if they want to cut the cost, they will cut the labor force. So now instead of having both X and Y, I have fired Y, okay, but inflation would reduce the real wages. So now that I was paying them $10,000. Now the real value for the same has decreased. The real wage has decreased because now the same $10,000 could only buy, let's say, could only buy 80% of what they could buy before inflation. Okay, so the real wages of the labor have been reduced. So by either keeping the money wage constant, 10,000, that's constant, okay, keeping it constant, or by not adjusting to the inflation, uh, the employer can employ more labor, okay. This would also attract more labor because at a nominal value, more labor would will be more likely to join. And also the producer is not earning a nominal value, the producer is earning a real value. So that's even greater for the producer. This will increase employment in the economy, causing low unemployment. This is not much effective consequence or effect in the economy, but it is an effect, a positive effect. Next is my signature touch, questions on inflation. Okay, so if you have a question on inflation asking you explain using graph or graphs the causes of inflation in an economy. So you need to explain first is what inflation is. You need to state the two types of inflation, which is demand pull and cost push inflation. Explain demand pull inflation and draw the graph for the same. Explain two point of views for demand pull inflation. Explain the cost push inflation and draw the graph for the same. Explain wage spiral effect and also explain imported inflation. So, and after all of this is done, take all the points, make state an evaluated conclusion for the same. Okay, so that's how you attempt an 8 marker. Next is a 12 marker, which says discuss the consequences of inflation in an economy. So I have just discussed inflation consequences. So first, generally just write what inflation is. This will impress the examiner that you know what inflation actually is. Then explain what are the positive effects, like increase in output, then lower burden, debt burden, and then next is low unemployment. So explain all these points, okay, in detail, so you can get 4 marks. Explain the negative effects of inflation, all the 6 negative effects that I've already explained you. Explain those. After this is done, pass an evaluated conclusion on the degree of effects for both sides of inflation. So what is inflation most likely to affect the most, the positive side or the negative side? So give an evaluated conclusion, give a solution if it's not in favor, okay, for the same. So yeah, that's it for the video. Before you go ahead and watch some other video, okay, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel, like my YouTube video, comment on my channel. Good comments only, okay, good comments only, please. And keep supporting me like you always have been. And click the bell notification so you are always notified when I post a new YouTube video. Also go ahead and watch some other video, but only my video, okay? Go watch my video so that you are a pro in economics. Thank you so much for staying up to here. I don't know how much time it's been, but still, thank you for staying till the end of the video. And yeah, so go watch other videos. I am also going to make videos on how to calculate inflation, and also what are the types of inflation, what are the degrees of inflation. Okay, so these two videos are upcoming. So first thing first, like this video and then go watch other those two videos. I'm going to put cards on this so you can watch my video. Okay, thank you so much, and meet you in the next video very soon.